Okay, so here we go. Welcome to the second episode of the Alpha Legion Community Cast. I'm Randy, and with me are Big Mech,
Yes.
Brother William again,
Hello.
Darkminster,
I'm totally not here.
Meraxis.
You got my name wrong.
Well, then
Merexis.
how do you pronounce your name?
Merexis.
Meraxis. See, I want to pronounce that like a hard A, not a soft A.
Just call him Dave.
Dave.
Once upon a time, there was one who was called Dave the Barbarian. 'Cause that's an old show.
Dave the
Good.
Barbarian.
Yes.
Anyways,
Barbarian.
so on Alpha Legion news, other than the Cardell and Darkminster couldn't host the game night last week or this week, because Cardell was at New York Comic Con and Darkminster's a scrub. There's none.
Oi, you git! I'm right here!
I know.
I hate you.
Love you too, baby. Anyways, on to the lore. Today we're going to be covering a bit about the Alpha Legion chapter itself, and we're just going to touch up on the companies. So first off, a correction. We were wrong. We were wrong the other week. There are only 36,000, Jesus Christ, 3,600 Astartes in the Alpha Legion. Mind you, that is still basically Legion building, but whatever. So, going down from, in actual numeric order, you have the first company, which is basically the Death Watch. Like, that's literally how it works. You take guys from other companies, put them in a squad, and they go do things.
But a clarification should be that they aren't actually the Death Watch of Sector Scowholm. That would be the Sunhod Fortress, which is currently, if I recall, under control of Watch Captain Varvarus, who is a salamander.
Yes.
Yes.
Didn't Varvarus leave, though?
Yeah, currently. That's why I say currently. It's up to probably debate now, but
We still need to talk about that at some point, Crimson.
Wait, what?
Yes. So, yeah,
Well,
good point there.
you guys
Just to
do.
point this
Yeah.
out. The Alpha Legion lore is still very much a work in progress, so things are changing all the time.
Because the Alpha Legion, in short, is a clusterfuck. And
Oh, yeah.
it's always changing.
Even its admins. Even
it's
its admins.
a glorious
Pretty
cluster.
much.
So, first company, the only permanent members of the first company, to my knowledge, are Chapter Master Alpha Buza, the Captain, who is a character that will never be named, and the Honor Guard. There are no other permanent members.
Yeah, and for the most part, the captain is supposed to be mysterious and sneaky breaky, so, again, he shall not be named.
Yes.
Sort of like Beetlejuice, if you say his name, if you try to say his name 3 times, you might summon him, but you don't want that. Because,
If I read the pages correctly for about First Company, I think it's something to do with, like, the captain takes something from every single company. So, like, say, who knows, he could have silly things like, oh, I have a siege shield. Oh, I have a warp pack. Oh, suddenly I have a heavy bolter.
So he has a siege shield, a warp pack, and a heavy bolter.
then he has a cup warmer from the second company.
But it's something along the lines of that from what I've heard. But
Because when you're in your tank in the second company, you need to keep your cappuccino warm.
Yes. So that brings us to the second company, who basically controls a good chunk, not all of it, because there are other companies with vehicles, but they control the majority of the Alpha Legion's motor pool, and the captain is Samson Sinclair.
Yeah,
And literally no one ever joined that group ever when it had a Steam group.
I know
Well, there's
Sinclair
some
for a
members
while.
now. You have like Ancient Foos, who's part of it, and Toki was chaplain of it at one point. The second company is also very interesting in that each company has its own sort of tactics and strategy when it's deployed and whatnot. And as stated, the second company is mostly tanks and what have you, and it's all about mobile sort of tank strike forces, or like point in case like a German blitzkrieg in a sense.
Yeah.
And if they're not exactly using their tanks, I heard they're one of the few companies out of the entirety of the Alpha Legion I've seen so far that actually use tactical squads.
Yeah.
Which
They are
Oh.
death in the shape of a panzer battalion.
also, Marks, you forgot about 8 War. Never forget. Never forget.
That is true. That is definitely freaking true. And like, yeah, their captain is also quite interesting in terms of his backstory. But I think that would be something to broach upon another time. I'm guessing.
Yeah. But yeah, so just remember, if you join the second company, you have to pray to Rommel and Patton every night before you go to bed.
Yeah, there's just like photos of them on the wall of every single second company Marine. And like they just sort of like light a candle near each one of them, and then just like they say their tank vows and go to sleep in their Land Raider beds.
Yep. So then you have the third company, who actually haven't really changed that much, and that they are bikers. They are basically the ripoff of the Raven Wing, only they don't value their bikes more than they do their Marines.
Although I've recently heard they have started implementing using land speeders now, from what I've heard.
I thought that was the third
Yeah,
company.
like their overall shtick is the third company is led by, I know Larry's involved with it, and I think White was the head of it, if I recall correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's a company that focuses, whilst the second company was more of solid tank strikes and blitzkriegs, or as one aptly put it, death in the form of a panzer battalion. The third company is much more light harassment and much more general mobility. It uses lighter vehicles, it responds rapidly and lightning fast, and it's more about sort of hit and run attacks, stuff that's not where you don't really go toe to toe to the enemy necessarily if it's a heavier force, but instead you strike critical targets before the enemy can react.
Yeah.
So they're very much I wouldn't call them an outright guerrilla force, but very much a lightning hit and run force.
Yeah, they are the love baby tactically of the Raven Wing, the Raven Guard, and the White Scars. Like, that's basically their whole tactical doctrine. And yeah, they also have Larry.
Yeah, and one thing to remember as well, companies are not their own total chapters or anything like that. They usually have anywhere from like 100 to maybe, due to the size of the Alpha Legion, a few hundred Marines or so. Mm-hmm. And they are usually, as with any company within a Space Marine chapter, are paired with other companies to help with deployment and operations and what have you. It's just that companies within the Alpha Legion have taken, due to the immense size of the Alpha Legion itself, and given how estranged we are in the Skullholm sector, because it's pretty far away from Terra, all things considered, each company is very specialized in its role, and it's, they got their own niche and traditions per company.
Yeah. And then you move on to the fourth company, who are just they actually use reasonable tactics with their doctrines and more or less adhere to the Codex Astartes, save for one thing. Motherfucking Baneblades.
Yeah, the fourth company is quite odd in that they actually use vehicles and military weapons from the Astra Militarum, which is, in other words, normally for the Imperial Guard. But they
Yes.
they likely have a pact with the Alpha Legion, with the Forge, with the Forge Fortress that Delrid, the Tech Marine, and the main head of the Alpha Legion Forge group.
The
And they
Master of the
also,
Forge.
Master of the Forge, and they have ties to the Mechanicus at large. I'm guessing at least, personally, but either way, they utilize the heavy, super heavy tanks like Baneblades, Stormhammers, and their average tank is Malkador tanks, which are larger variants of main battle tanks, larger even than your standard Lehman Russ.
Wait, aren't Malkadors basically more like light versions of Baneblades? Pretty sure
Not
they're basic
quite.
on
They're
Baneblade
like a
chassis.
mix. They're like the sort. They're a heavy tank, whereas the Lehman Russ is your medium sort of go-to main battle
Like,
tank. Malkadors
Malkador-
are larger tanks.
The Malkador barely makes the super heavy mark. Like, just barely. Just barely.
I haven't seen a Malkador before.
Twin-linked Vanquisher cannons. That's all I need to say.
Yes.
Ooh,
Yeah.
sounds beautiful.
The fourth company, therefore, is mostly uses heavy bombardment and strong sort of tank assault pushes. But unlike the second company with its overall sort of jack of all trades with its armor, and the third company's speed and mobility, the fourth company trades its speed and mobility for extra armor and for generally just being a heavier tank force. When you need to, say, support the 11th company in a siege, you call in the 4th company to bring in its heavy, super heavy tanks
Yeah.
to pummel the enemy into dust.
Yeah. The main point of all the tactical squads in the fourth company is to make sure nothing gets to the Baneblade's weak points.
Yes, they are the escorts of these tanks. Since these are heavy, slow maneuvering tanks, you need some sort of infantry escort to be able to support them. Very much like how real tanks work in the real world. You typically want to have a escort of infantry trailing alongside a tank, otherwise, to give an example to a modern war, say like in Syria, you might have some insurgent blast a rocket down into your tank, and you have no infantrymen to combat that. So that's precisely why they have the tactical marine squads.
And then you have the fifth company, who I just love out their whole thing. Their whole shtick is they're experimental, and they use a lot of chemical weapons. How their tactics work is that it's basically, if they can't have it, no one can have it. They will blast it into a chemical wasteland if they're not allowed to have it, and then put a trench right outside that wasteland and just wait for you to die.
I like the
Yeah.
sound of this company.
The fifth company is also one of the few companies that, yes, whilst it uses experimental weaponry and to quite a hazardous extent or whatnot, the fifth company has a lot of tactical marines within its ranks too, because the fifth company is what you consider a line company. It is one that uses experimental chemical weapons and other dangerous, volatile shit in conjunction with its tactical marines forming a basic line offensive. Therefore, having the biggest pool of tactical marines of any of the other companies, given its stratagems revolving around basic line pushes while being complemented with experimental weaponry.
Yep, and then the sixth company...
They're missing in action. Let's skip them.
No, they're being rebuilt. They have 100. They're being rebuilt just without a captain and all the nice experimental sonic weaponry.
Aww,
They,
sonic
but
weapons
for the
are.
most part, the sixth company is, it's redacted for its history and information for now. let's just say that they went a little bit too far with their vacation into the warp, and the warp's cocaine, it's warp dust. Supply's always been dwindling now ever since they got their stinking paws on the supply. But yeah.
And then there's the seventh company, which I actually forget what the seventh company does.
I can shed some light on that. Basically, the seventh company it plays like the Night Lords and the Raven Guard. They're sneaky, yet they'll jump and scare the shit out of you if given the chance.
Yeah, they're in 2 words to sum up the seventh company: terror tactics. They will use shit to just confuse, scare, and make you wet the bed at night. They're the types who are all about disruption and sort of subterfuge against the enemy. They are the type that will sort of hack into your comlinks and spam laughter onto its servers.
Sounds like Dark Elder.
Yes.
Well, not quite into the BDSM and sadistic torture, mind you. They are more about
So they're like
outright
the Dark
destruction.
Elder without all the fun bits of the Dark Elder.
It's more like what the Raven Guard was before Conrad Cruz came in and just turned them into what they are now.
Yeah, the seventh
Yes.
company is very much like they'll hide and ambush people.
Conrad Cruz, the
They're a
Primarch of the
little
Raven
more-
Guard.
Fucking hell.
The
I
seventh
meant-
company. Oh,
I
sorry.
meant to say Corvius Corax, but I was thinking Night Lords.
I was gonna say, like, from what I've garnered from Cage, because I actually spoke to him a couple of times, he told me that the seventh company is a little more melee oriented compared to the other companies.
Yep. And
One
they,
of the melee companies, I should point out.
yes, and I've also spoken to Cage as well, to a good extent, with chats with Stellar, aka Samson Sinclair, and Cage as well. And Seventh Company is very much, as Dark said, a melee company that will use surprise and ambush tactics to kind of pop up, get into melee quickly with an opponent, leave them shit in the bed, and then also do stuff like hacking their Vox communication links to send psychotic laughter and drivel into the ears of its opponents, and generally just be a pain in the ass by just disrupting communication flow, causing chaos on the battlefield, and just sort of staggering the opponent before they even get into contact with the main major battle forces of other companies or the Imperial Guard, making them pretty useful for both pitch battles and sieges because they can just screw up the enemy's organization.
The TLDR of it is they are less edgy Night Lords.
Ah.
So,
Pretty much.
the eighth company is actually what you'd expect the first company to be, in that it is the company that mostly uses the Terminator armor, but it also uses the Centurion suits, because it's basically the company...
They want to be adorable.
They're the heavy infantry of the heavy infantry.
More or less. They're the
Yeah,
guys
they're
who are in charge of
AKA
cleaning out
the
space
Fat
hulk.
Marines. They are the Fat Marines. Yes, they will basically attack the enemy for all their cheeseburgers with their Terminator armor. They have various weapons, but the main consistent thing with the 8th Company is that they are all a bunch of fat bastards in big fat armor suits, and they will crush you with their Terminator boots.
What else did I recall of the 8th Company? Because I'm pretty sure they did something else as well. Oh yeah, that's right. If I recall as well, I don't know if this is still canon or not, but
They eat
if
Doritos in mass.
No, Marks, step, plus. If I recall correctly, they do also implement drop strikes.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Because walking is Yeah, I'll stop. Yeah. They use that for deployment, because of the obvious size of their suits.
Yeah.
And who leads the 8th Company is a Borealic Maiden. Is that, or is it Corva? I keep getting confused.
They're two different characters, if I recall.
Yeah. I don't know, I just keep getting confused every time.
Is
Welcome to
Borealic
the
Maiden
Alpha
still
Legion.
canon?
I need to actually ask about that.
Yeah. But yeah, they
Basically, Boreal fangirl. That's all you need to know.
yeah.
I
Girl,
hate it already.
Girl, yeah, quotations there.
Oh yeah. Don't get me. We'll not go into any detail further on that.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's a long story.
It's a long story, and we don't
Let's
have time
move
for
on to the 9th Company, I say,
it.
because
Yeah, the Navy.
the
They
good old
actually don't
Admiral
ram
wants
into
his
planets
faction
anymore, guys.
represented. Should
They
I
won't-
start with the 9th Company, or...?
Yeah, the Ninth
They are the
Company
Navy.
They're the Navy, and they don't actually ram ships into planets to kill one guy anymore. They're reasonable now.
Well, kinda. They are still pretty ridiculous and, awesome in their own right. The 9th Company is led by, Admiral Baldwin Burke, and he is both a blank and a sort of a patient strategist in naval warfare. But to clarify, the Skalholm Sector Navy, the Imperial Navy, still retains the large amount of their own ships. But where Baldwin Burke and his 9th Company come in, and this relates a lot to the Alpha Legion's actual history here. The Alpha Legion, before it settled on Swedesia, was a spacefaring chapter. It was a chapter that had no home world for the longest time. It was spaceborne, and granted, a spaceborne sort of company that split off from the original Alpha Legion, which was where we were loyalist split-offs from the Alpha Legion originally. It was necessary to be proficient in spaceborne combat. So the 9th Company has a lot of traditions within the sort of like the old mentality of the Alpha Legion, in a sense. Alpha, not like the Alpha, not the traitors, our own.
Or the
And,
PH.
Free traitors. Free
yes,
traitors.
yes. They have certain traditions along that, and the 9th Company typically uses tactically. They obviously use ships. They have a good sizable naval force, and when it comes to attacking planets, or more commonly attacking ships, they have very well-trained and drilled boarding crews. They have both armsmen on their own ships, and their own marines are usually breacher class marines, where they are very melee orientated. They have shields, they have power spears, and they have all assortment of different sort of good close quarters combat weapons, because these guys are the ones who are being sent on shore parties to maybe help with an assault, storming something, or, as it's stated, more commonly storming a ship and its hull and whatnot, and going through the passageways of a ship, and sort of just clearing an enemy ship of crew and soldiers and what have you.
I should probably also add, not just ordinary shields, these are boarding shields. Basically the biggest shield you can get in 40k, and it's also a bitch to carry.
Yeah, these boarding shields are very much where you can block. If you have a few Marines in a hallway, fucking nothing is getting past that in terms of munitions.
Yeah.
You would have to get right in close into the nitty gritty with these Marines and what have you. But
because these are not just any shields. These are M&S shields.
They're basic, but if you want to imagine what a boarding shield looks like, think of a SWAT team shield you see in all them fancy games and what have you, and well, generally what the
They're
SWAT.
big freaking shields.
Big
they
SWAT
cover most of your
shields.
body. Like they're like
They're-
They're boarding shields. That's precisely what they are.
Big
Mhm.
lumps of armor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're not even power shields most of the time because they don't
Yeah.
need to be.
Yeah, Ninth Company, in its role in terms of supporting the Alpha Legion, it'll support it in space, obviously. And then it'll also send boarding or shore parties onto planets, and it also will send down some occasional land speeders and the odd sort of quote-unquote aircraft to support its fellows and what have you. But it's limited on its ground potential because Ninth Company is not really built to do prolonged combat on the ground.
Yeah. Then you have the 10th Company, which forget what they do too. What do they do?
The 10th Company operate like every other 10th Company of a Space
Oh, yeah,
Marine
they're the
thing.
scouts,
They're
that's right.
scouts.
Mako, please don't hurt me. Please. I love you, baby. Please.
Yeah, the 10th Company is filled to the brim with scouts, and some people say that a lot of the Alpha Legion's numerical just blob legion amounts actually comes from the 10th Company, just due to the sheer amount of freaking scouts we have. That's
I was
not
looking at the
confirmed.
Weebly earlier, and they have like 400 plus scouts.
Yes, making the
Yeah.
10th Company one of the largest companies, which makes sense because scouts are the recruits and potential
The weakest.
prospects of a Space Marine chapter. They are not only are they sort of like your infiltrators, your obviously your scouts and whatnot, and your reconnaissance guys, but also the trainees. They're the guys trying to prove themselves, which the Alpha Legion has a very sort of specific ritualization with its recruits. Not only do you get training and whatnot for power armor, you get the enhancements with all the different clans and the gene seed and all have you. But the 10th Company and the Alpha Legion in general, with its training procedures, they have a sort of, I wouldn't call it coming of age, but it's initiation into the proper ranks of the Space Marines by trial in the Judgment of Harrion.
And yes,
And-
this is still canon.
Yes, it quite is. The Judgment of Harrion is a space wreck, a space hulk, let's just say that much, and it's full of ravenous Tyranids and whatnot, and
And a Sierra.
yeah, and a Sierra, which is the most ravenous of the ravenous of Tyranids, and what the 10th Company scouts have to do in their sort of initiation into the Legion proper is that they have to not only get to the end of the ship of the Hulk, but they also have to kill a lot of these Tyranids, and then they make literally a kilt out of their chitons. They make a sort of like a fleshy chitin kilt from the Tyranids that they slay, and that's a sort of earned sort of trophy of their initiation into the Legion. And during training as well, you it's kind of like any other standard chapter, really, where certain Marines, like if they show aptitudes for different jobs, they might be slotted for different companies as well. So 10th Company also handles a lot of the training. So you have a lot of drill sergeants and drill Marines within the 10th Company. So it's sort of the process of where you are made into a Space Marine. It's one of the more important companies within the Legion.
Yes. And then you have the 11th Company, which is Siege Company. Like, literally, they just do nothing but siege, and they have basilisks and whirlwinds, and their interim captain is a fucking commissar.
Yeah, the 11th Company is an odd case because their original captain is actually lost in the warp right now. So, due to odd circumstance, an Imperial Guard Commissar is actually Lord Commissar Wolf is in command of the 11th Company for the time being.
Rather than doing what an Astartes chapter would actually do, and get another Astartes to lead it, because that's what fucking happens.
Apparently, Alpha Busa was drunk one day, and Commissar Wolf happened.
Either way, due to their connection to the Imperial Guard, the 11th Company is afforded a little bit more artillery. The 11th Company has a lot more. They have support from the Imperial Guard, where they'll be jointed with Imperial Guard regiments quite often, and they are the ones responsible for both defending fortresses, because they go both ways. They both besiege enemy fortresses, where it's that big ugly chaos spire, or it's the big orc warband camp. Either way, they're going to be sieging shit, or they'll be defending stuff. This is how it goes. And they'll use artillery bombardment to help them out in this matter.
It's basically what the 11th Company is basically what happens when you take the Death Corps of Krieg, make them care about their lives, and then turn them into Space Marines.
Yeah, and then throw in actual Death Corps of Krieg just for regimental support for shits and giggles.
Yep. And then finally you have the 12th Company, which is...
Oh, the 12th Company.
It's actually nowadays more or less a standard assault company, although the command squad has teleporter packs.
Yeah, and they do have, they also have their own Warp Marine squads, which, I shall, give kind of a shout out, which is my favorite Marine in the Alpha Legion. Curly Halvard of the 12th Company, a force commander, not the captain, but a force commander of the 12th Company, is a prime example of this sort of Warp Marine, package you'll find in the 12th Company. 12th Company is your standard assault. They'll rush in there with teleporters and with jetpacks, and they'll get right into the thick of it with melee.
However, there is a bit of a drawback with the 12th Company, taking this from someone who was originally part of the 12th Company.
And there is a drawback with Curly.
Oh, yeah.
What's this drawback?
In that he is literally Curly from the Three Stooges.
Oh.
Yes,
But
he
a
is.
Space Marine.
Yeah, he is a parody of Curly Howard, and I don't really see that as a drawback. That's quite a boon. He's got a hard head on them shoulders right there, and
Literally.
yeah,
His head is an AP-20 weapon.
pretty much.
Oh, God.
The 12th Company is led by Captain Ares, who is a relative potato marine, and
Pretty Ares,
No,
Chan.
no.
Don't you dare.
Crimson. We're gonna do this right.
Don't
well,
you
he's still a
dare.
potato marine either way you
Shush
play.
you. Captain
Is you
Gideon.
throw him at the enemy.
Shut up. Captain Gideon is also, well, full name, Ares Gideon. Captain of the 12th Company, has been through a shit ton of crusades, is the prettiest princess,
Don't
and a follower of Nurgle.
I hate you so much.
You know-
And as of the brewing
You
problem,
had it until follower of Nurgle, because it's just...
Oh no, that's new.
Yeah, I know, that's new. And I'm just...
Really? Why did you have to choose the most unclean of things for Ares? Seriously, Dark.
what's
Ares
this about
knows
Ares
why.
following Nurgle?
Ares knows why, and I bet he's probably raging at me at this point by the time he sees this.
Let that
By the way,
man
also-
alone, guys.
Thanks
Love
to
you,
the
Captain.
events of a certain RP, Ares got, well, all of his limbs got blown off and he's now become Darth Vader.
Yeah, he is basically, he's basically become what was that? Ultramarine chapter master. guy. Holy.
Amalgleus Calgar.
Yeah, he has basically become Amalgleus Calgar in a sense where during one ill-fated assault, Ares became a potato marine where he got burned, scorched, and deep fried, and he lost most of his limbs, and in addition to his repertoire of crusades, Ares, whether the RP is canon or not, Ares Gadillion is a seriously scarred motherfucker. That guy has been through a lot of different stuff. And he commands the likes of Curly Halvard, so it's no wonder that he gets into just some crazy shenanigans and crazy situations from time to time.
I would also like to mention that the RP in question was run by Mr. Meraxis.
Yes.
And
We
he
could
was
be
the one
here
who
all
blew
day
up
trying to
Ares.
pronounce my character's name, but yeah. I
I
do
was
indeed
part of
run
one
the
point.
Bruin problem.
Then shit happened, and I haven't actually ever found the time to get back into it.
I still need to punch you over the head, Randy, for that. I've been needing you, god damn it.
I'm sorry, real life happened.
It's not like they're knocking on my door. Oh, wait.
But yeah, that aside, I think that sums up the 12th company. What's the subject of choice now?
Before we come off, you guys did mention Delrid previously, so I think it'd be kind of a good idea to, mention the extensions. So, like, say, the Apothecarian, the Forge, the Chaplains, and all that.
Yeah, that would be actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah,
We should start with the Forge first, then. With,
because we mentioned
Forge
Delrid.
Master Delrid.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Alpha Legion Forge is exactly what you'd expect from a Space Marine Forge, only they are kind of a bit more loose with what they'll make. Not by any real big deal. They're not going to make something straight up heretical, but they are perfectly willing to experiment with an STC.
Well, they are a little bit more experimental, yes, and that's just due to the Alpha Legion in general is kind of much more radical than your typical Space Marine sort of chapter. They are unconventional, and this reflects in their forge. The forge of the Alpha Legion with Delrid at its head is they're split into two different they have kind of two different factions within their setup. I'll reference them directly just in a second, but they do indeed have sort of two different opinions on how to run the Forge. Just 1 second. Trying to reach the Forge page. Either way, I don't have the names on me at hand right now, but essentially, within the Alpha Legion and the Forge in particular, there's two factions where you had more of like a Puritan group, which was akin more to the traditional Mechanicus, where they didn't want to experiment and stuff. And then you have more of a experimental group, which is the majority right now in the Alpha Legion. They are not heretics, mind you, but they do indeed try to innovate and try to experiment and try to improve technology, and this is just due to the radical nature of the Alpha Legion as a whole. And Delrid, the current Forge Master, is part of this latter sort of experimental group.
And then you have the chaplains headed by Reclusiarch Ugnok, and yeah, they are sort of like your normal chaplains in that they don't really preach the Emperor as a god for the most part. They're more like It's more like he's the man emperor of mankind, and I am so terribly sorry I made that reference. That was a bad reference.
I should probably don't worry, I'll be quick about this, Marks. Basically, if I recall correctly, the chaplaincy runs a little bit differently, only a tad bit, because there are wardens in the chaplaincy as well. These wardens are like representatives in a strange way. I, of course, don't know all the details, but I know that's a thing.
Yeah, the chaplaincy of the Alpha Legion, due to the radical nature of this chapter, aren't as quite. They are still very much fervent to the God Emperor of mankind, mind you. That's no mistake right there. But they don't condone the unconventional sort of nature of the Alpha Legion as other chaplains would. They also run quite a bit different. And it goes without saying, Ugnok is an Ugnok. And he is quite a savage chaplain himself. He is quite ruthless in his own demeanor and personality, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
If only we had an Ugnok for the Ugnoks.
The warden chaplains are basically what happens when you take your standard chaplain who sees chaos and make them even angrier and then give them a giant fucking axe, though.
Also, they may or may not be a Carcadon.
I thought that was retcon, though.
Was it?
I think Ugnok's just a standard-of-the-mill Alpha Legionnaire that's just very angry.
Oh, that's boring.
And has suspiciously sharp teeth.
Yeah,
Because he probably came from some tribal world like Harena or, well, Swedesia is pretty goddamn tribal too, thanks to Swedaki and its shithole sort of like Canada environment. But, or PA Sweden, but, yeah. The final group, the Ordo Alphas, I believe we were about to cover.
No, that's not the one. You forgot the Apothecarian.
Yeah,
that's right. Which is led by Apothecarian Gorox, if I recall correctly.
Gorox has a hood.
And also, he has a thing for stabbing people with hammers. That's also not been retconned.
Oh god. Wait, that's still him?
Yeah, that's still a thing. He stabs people with hammers. If I recall correctly, the Apothecarian, I should probably say, is probably one of the more not noticeable factors of the Alpha Legion, but I still think it should be kind of mentioned, because, you know, what would be an Alpha Legion without apothecaries? Or any Space Marine Legion, for that matter.
Yeah, the Alpha Legion, the only reason that the Apothecary isn't as prominent within the Alpha Legion is usually because the idiot Marines under the Alpha Legion, and due to their lax standards, usually getting themselves, they get themselves killed before any frickin' Apothecary can usually heal their wounds, because, let's face it, the Alpha Legion, its Marines are, their level of competency and, overall usefulness and, let's just say it, they're outright morons compared to most other Space Marine chapters. They are still Space Marines, and they are still the Demi-Herculean servants of the God Emperor. But these ones, the Alpha Legion has a tendency to, and this is actually due to a gene seed flaw, actually, I should mention, is that, dementia actually seems to occur quite badly within the Alpha Legion, and the Alpha Legion's gene seed flaw leads into a acute form of dementia where essentially they'll have an identity crisis, and this is where the quote-unquote unofficial 13th company kind of comes in, where it's usually these aka this is really a way to explain and get rid of Sues, mind you, on an offhand note, but it's more or less where Marines who have inflated fantasies of themselves and who have dementia and personality quirks that just make them unstable get put into this unofficial company, and they are sent in to more or less have an honorable death. They die and fight to the death, so that even in their retarded state, they serve a purpose.
Basically a rip-off of the... Wait, are they the second companies in Blood Angel successors?
Basically, they are kind of like inspired off of the bloodthirst of the Blood Angels, if I recall, or like the Black Thirst or whatever.
The Black
Marines.
Rage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the Black
the Black
Rage. That
Rage.
was it. My Space Marine knowledge is a little bit rusty, but needless to say, that's kind of where the idea stems from. Except that in the Alpha Legion's case, this dementia isn't always sort of like this sort of fatal curse or this sort of inhibiting curse. You actually have certain cases, like Second Company has their actual captain has a sort of personality disorder to himself, but not so much that it would inhibit him with his duties. These Marines who end up in the quote-unquote 13th company, which is not an official recognized company, mind you, I will say right now, they are basically just, they're, as stated, kind of like the Black Rage, where they are expendable and they will be used until they die.